Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. A very good morning and welcome to the most comprehensive Hindu analysis on YouTube. So let's begin today's discussion by first looking at the topics that we are going to discuss. From the Delhi edition of the Hindu, I have chosen 10 important articles for a detailed and comprehensive analysis. The idea is to ensure that you don't have to go back and read the newspaper again. So let's get started with today's discussion. But before that, I have a very important announcement. As we enter the second week of August and prepare to celebrate the 79th Independence Day of India, Unacademy wishes to celebrate this event with our students, our aspirants. And Unacademy is rolling out a very special offer, the Freedom Offer, where you can avail our courses at the lowest prices ever. At just 17,999, you will get access to all our live and recorded lectures, along with the study material, the test series, and mentorship and doubt resolution sessions. You will also get up to 12 months of free extension if you enroll before the 14th of August. This special offer will end on 14th of August and you need to enter the code IAS English in order to get this discounted price. On the subscription page, you might see a different amount, but to avail the offer, you have to enter the code IAS English. And those who enroll for 2 years and above, and if you manage to clear prelims, Unacademy will provide a mains residential program absolutely free of cost. So if you take a 2 year plus subscription and clear prelims, Unacademy would be providing a 2 year mains guidance program, which includes accommodation, guided mentorship, and classes as well. So those interested can click on the link provided in the video description below. And if you want the PDF of this session, today there is a very detailed PDF with all the key pointers, the model answer writing approach, a lot of maps and other key pointers as well. So if you want the PDF, please join the Telegram channel by scanning the QR code. I'll be sharing it over here after the session ends. So let's begin the discussion and look at the first article. On page number 11, the Hindu carries an article on the role of artificial intelligence and how it is disrupting and transforming the IT sector. See, this article is very important for economy and science and technology because it's not just any other general article on artificial intelligence. It is a very specific article on the impact of AI on IT sector. Because see, in the IT industry, we are already seeing a big disruption taking place because of the deployment of AI tools. Now, recently, TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, has caused a shockwave in India's IT industry by removing 12,000 employees. I'm sure many of you, especially engineers who are aspiring for software engineering jobs or those who are already in the corporate sector, even you might have heard about this, and this would have even triggered some panic as this has led to fears that AI is replacing jobs, that AI is leading to the culling of jobs, and this could create an employment crisis. In fact, TCS has even placed a freeze on hiring for certain positions, especially for experienced roles at the mid level of the management. TCS has placed a freeze on hiring, and this has caused a lot of concern and alarm across the IT industry. So, it is in this context that the Hindu brings out a very detailed analysis and an insightful article to help us understand what is the role of AI today in the IT sector. Will it help IT industry to further scale up, to further innovate and come out with new products? Will it create more opportunities or will it lead to the destruction of jobs? Will it lead to a complete disruption in the IT industry itself? That is the important question which is being examined in this article. So let's go beyond the article as well and understand why India's IT industry is so important and what could be the role of AI and eventually we'll discuss the way forward as well. Now, the big question is artificial intelligence really leading to the loss of jobs, not just in IT sector, across the economy? Does AI really result in the loss of jobs? See, generally, whenever such layoffs happen, usually media outlets they tend to exaggerate the threat. These are headline grabbing incidents. So whenever a company, especially a tech company, carries out a mass layoff, usually the headlines will read that since automation is entering the industry, these thousands of jobs have now been removed. And they will start creating that fear mindset that AI is essentially leading to culling of jobs. Though AI will result in replacement of certain jobs, the argument is not so simple. It is more complex, it is more nuanced. So, this article helps us understand whether AI will really result in loss of jobs as it is being feared. Will all the workers get eventually replaced? Or is there a middle path which is present? Will AI lead to some sort of transformation in the industry? So, what does it mean for employees? What does it mean for businesses? What does it mean for investors? This is what we will try to learn by trying to go beyond the article. Now, if you look at artificial intelligence, you look at your generative AI tools, look at the various AI coding platforms which have come up. Recently, I was talking to one of my friends who's a senior product manager in a very reputed software firm. He was telling me that by using latest AI tools, they have really managed to speed up productivity, increase productivity, speed up the work. A tool that they developed, a very complex web tool, which would often take 3 to 4 months for development and another at least 1 or 2 months for testing and final deployment. That would be the life cycle of that product, which means they would spend around 6 to 7 months, and it was very resource intensive. They would need at least 50, 60 coders and 30 to 40 testers. So a very large team was needed. An entire team of specialists were required to develop that particular product. Now that friend tells me that the same product can be developed in just a matter of 1 day and hardly by using 2 or 3 resources. So definitely AI is causing a transformation. There is no doubt about it. Imagine a software product, a complex tool, which would take 6 to 7 months for development, testing, and deployment, which would require at least 60 to 80 workers to work on it, is now being managed by hardly 2 to 3 workers, and they're delivering that output in 1 day with no errors. So, this definitely increases efficiency. It is definitely an opportunity for the industry. It will result in replacement of jobs. There is no doubt about it. But is it something that employees should fear about? Does it mean that tomorrow nobody will have jobs? That's not the case. That is largely a over exaggeration. Now, if you look at the transformation that's happening, definitely there will be a change in the way in which companies recruit talent, the way in which they manage and retain the talent. So essentially, the employees have to adapt, just like businesses are adapting, governments are adapting to the introduction of AI. Employees and current students who will later enter the job markets in the coming years, they should start adapting to this new reality. So, if you possess the right skills, the right talent, there is no way that AI is going to replace all the jobs. AI will help us do things better, with better efficiency, with higher productivity. And that is what you need for building a solid company. That's what you need for building a strong economy as well. So, AI should not be seen as a threat. Rather, it is presenting a transformative opportunity so that the industry itself can transform. And imagine the kind of IT products that can come out that will later transform other industries, from fintech to education to creative media to even industrial automation. The kind of changes that is happening already is something that presents lot of opportunities in the coming years and decades. So please understand, AI is no longer a futuristic technology. AI is already here. It has already been deployed in the economy across sectors and industries, and it is already creating a transformation right in front of our eyes. So instead of fearing AI, what you need to do is adapt, learn, reskill, upskill, and this is where opportunities will lie for you. So definitely AI has this tremendous capacity to drive unprecedented efficiencies, especially in software testing. AI tools are much better and efficient in identifying the bugs in the code, in rectifying the errors. So they will significantly reduce the turnaround time for software development. And this will have a massive impact on all the other industries which are dependent on IT tools and IT products. So AI is gaining momentum. There is no doubt about it. As I said, when companies see that this will bring in cost optimization, they can reduce unnecessary capital expenditure. They can cut down on salaries and other employee benefits. Right now, you don't need large IT parks having thousands of employees to develop these software tools. Even a small team of 40, 50 people with the right skill and talent will be able to deliver the same output or even better output with better productivity. So this will help drive up profit margins. It will help in reducing cost, the cost of operations. So cost optimization is something that is the direct result of the implementation of AI. So this is what investors will look for when venture capitalists or even in a listed company, the shareholders, when they're investing in a company, they will look at the business model, they will look at the cost efficiency of the company, and eventually they look at the balance sheet and the profit margins. Profitability is very essential to maintain a running viable business. So if there is a way through which you can optimize the cost, cut down these expenses, use that capital on something more productive, which can make the company profitable, then that is a win-win situation for the business as well, for the investors and for the economy of the nation. And this in turn will benefit the employees as well. So you need not fear AI. AI has already contributed to a rise in productivity of around 30% and above in the Indian IT industry. This is based on what IT experts are telling us in the market. IT tools, which are AI enabled, they're already registering improved productivity of 30% and above. So, when you see a full scale rollout of AI in the IT industry, there will be significant advantages that will get created. Will there be changes? Yes, 100%. But if you adapt, if you essentially try to reskill and upskill, there will be plenty of opportunities that will open up, newer opportunities that will get created. It's not that with AI, all the employees will be removed. That never works. It's all about placing yourself in the right position, acquiring the right skills, having that right talent, which the industry is going to look for in the coming months, in the coming years. Now, if you look at India's IT sector, it's a very crucial industry for India. India's IT industry generates a revenue of $280 billion. It accounts for nearly 7% of our GDP and 25% of India's exports. It's a critical component of our services sector. So, in such a crucial industry where almost 5.8 million people are employed, obviously there are concerns about what would be the impact of AI. This is something that can disrupt the economy itself. But with the right implementation and adoption, it will end up creating more opportunities. It could drive India's GDP growth in the services industry. It could drive up our exports. Because, see, traditionally, India has been a sort of a back office for the entire world. Indian IT companies, such as, let's say, TCS, Wipro, Infosys, and the others, and all the new age startups, they have been writing codes, developing software tools in a very traditional manner until now. But going forward, what you will see is a complete transformation where these same Indian companies, if they start adapting and they start innovating and deploying AI to bring efficiency and increase productivity and bring that cost optimization, they will create a new appeal for the global market. It will help Indian IT companies to retain their global clients because they can promise better products with a quicker turnaround time, with better efficiency. This will build confidence for investors as well, global investors, to pour in that capital to bring more investments into India. And this is going to create more opportunities in the future. So, will there be an impact on jobs? Yes, 100%. But doesn't mean that everybody would become jobless. That scaremongering, the fear mongering that you see is largely a over exaggeration. See, in this year alone, in India, more than $1 trillion is likely to be spent across the world and as well as in the Indian market. So, this will primarily be used for building the AI infrastructure around the world. So, if you take the cumulative investments which is being made into the IT sector in our country and as well as around the world, that cumulative investment is up to around $1 trillion in just 2025. So, this eventually will start reaping the benefits from next year onwards, where you will see that AI will be reshaping everything, not just in the IT sector, all the other dependent sectors as well. And that is exactly where the opportunity lies. When fewer people can do the tasks more far quickly and efficiently, this will bring more optimization in the economy. It will drive investor confidence to bring more investments, drive business opportunities, and this will end up creating more jobs. But however, there is a big challenge for India's IT sector. You know what is the challenge? The challenge for India's IT industry is that most of our traditional IT companies, the traditional names, the big names like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and the others, they've largely relied upon legacy systems, legacy infrastructure, meaning the old traditional computers, the older data centers, and also data was not well organized and managed by most of the Indian companies. In fact, this is true around the world as well. If you look at the older traditional software and IT companies, there was very poor data management, and most of the databases are fragmented. Now, this is never helpful for deploying AI because to deploy AI, you need to train the algorithm on data and you need high quality data that is centralized, that is thoroughly organized so that the data could be used to train and model the AI algorithms. So, this is one challenge that the Indian companies are trying to solve. Since the databases are fragmented, the quality of the data is also pretty poor. And most of the IT infrastructure is legacy infrastructure, the old outdated infrastructure. They're trying to upgrade this. They're trying to ensure that the data which is available for training AI tools is more accurate. They're trying to improve the quality of the data that's available, the way in which data is classified and categorized, because the fragmented systems will have to now be centralized. And once this is done, once the IT companies manage to do this, there are tremendous opportunities to bring in these super efficient AI tools to drive a transformation in the IT sector. Now, this is exactly where the opportunities are present for Indian IT companies. Because around the world, the clients, the vendors who seek out India software products, they will look for better efficiency, better turnaround as well, and better cost as well. The only way in which Indian companies can retain those foreign clients is by adapting, is by deploying AI to deliver to the global requirements. Now, don't you think when Indian software tools will cater to the global market, don't you think they will have to comply with global regulations as well? The regulations present in other countries and jurisdictions. So you will see that happening in the European market in particular. The Artificial Intelligence Act of the European Union, it has already brought in a legal regulatory system in the European market So when Indian software tools have to match the regulatory standards of the European market, you will see sufficient opportunities opening up in the Indian economy as well, be it with regard to data privacy or ensuring that AI tools are fair, unbiased, ensure that there is responsible usage of AI. So, to meet these requirements, the companies will also have to transform their processes. They will have to ensure that the tools they are developing through AI will comply with the regulations in foreign countries. And this will end up creating even more opportunities, be it in the legal domain, in policy making domain, and as well as in the technology sector as well. So, if you are, let's say, a software developer, or let's say you're a project manager, or if you have a specialized skill set and domain knowledge, you need not panic, you need not worry, because this transformation of rolling out AI in IT sector is a strategic message, a message to the markets, a message to the global clients of Indian IT companies, and a message to the employees as well. Now, when a company like TCS that employs close to 6 lakh professionals in our country, if it lays off 12,000 people, essentially it means the company is driving towards efficiency and cost optimization, which is good in the larger picture, in the larger scheme of things. It means that those who were laid off, they weren't essentially suitable for the requirements of the industry. Now, those who have been laid off, for them, it is a time, it is an opportunity to reskill and upskill. Look at what the industry requires. See, no matter what happens, let's say C++ coding, this will remain sort of an evergreen opportunity. C++ coding is the bread and butter for creating operating systems, even high-end gaming, graphic-heavy applications, and critical, secure, highly cyber-secure applications. The coding is largely through C++ and through other coding languages as well. Though AI tools can write code, eventually they can't bring in critical thinking. AI machines can't bring that critical knowledge. They can't bring the creativity, the ingenuity of a human mind. So, wherever imagination is necessary, wherever critical thinking is necessary, wherever knowledge, expertise, that domain expertise matters, AI will not be able to replace those jobs. Now, this is what you need to identify. You need to build that domain competency, make yourself employable. So, there are certain sectors, certain specific roles. Take, for example, in the field of math, or let's say in the field of embedded systems, and in the software domain itself, specific streams of coding. So, when you acquire specialized knowledge, when you're able to contribute to a AI enabled IT industry, you will become irreplaceable. Rather, there would be high paying opportunities that will open up. Right now, those who are being laid off are primarily those who are involved in routine manual tasks, which can be easily automated by a AI tool. And at the middle level, those who are in the managerial positions, who are managing large teams, right? They are being replaced because you don't need large teams anymore. As I said, you don't even need an IT park. You don't even need a big office. You don't even need thousands of employees anymore. The work of 5,000, 10,000 people is now being done efficiently with 40, 50 people. So this transformation is already here. It is going to happen. The only thing you have to do is identify the areas where the opportunities are present. Build up those core competencies, possess those skills, and you will always be irreplaceable. No AI tool can replace human ingenuity, the creativity, and that critical thinking which is needed. Be it for coding or any other sector, any other industry, the same thing will apply. So, this topic is very, very important for your mains exam. So, let's look at a mains question. And as always, let's look at the answer writing approach as well. Today, I will give you specific pointers, a proper introduction, body, and conclusion, because my idea through every Hindu analysis session is to help you write better answers. Because you can't clear this exam if you don't develop your answer writing skills. See, prelims is obviously a elimination round. It's only to filter out the non-serious candidates. And prelims is a objective round where you're solving MCQs, which is much, much easier. But the real exam, the real challenge is your mains exam, where you have to develop your skills to express yourself, to present your viewpoints, to bring that critical thought into the answer and build a proper structure into your answer. So, writing descriptive answers will take time, it'll take effort, it'll take practice. That's why in every session, I'm insisting for you to focus on answer writing, and I'm trying to help you as well by providing a approach, a model answer of sorts that you can directly use to practice your answer writing. So I'm really hoping this approach is being helpful. So let's look at this question and let's discuss how you can build a well structured answer for this question. Artificial intelligence is transforming India's IT sector from a scale driven model to a specialized innovation led model. Discuss the implications of this shift for employment, business models, and India's global competitiveness. So, there are two parts in this question. First, read the question carefully, understand the question, spend 30-40 seconds in understanding the question carefully. So, if you read carefully and understand this, you will see that there are two parts in this question. The first statement is saying that AI led transformation in our IT sector is transforming the IT industry from a scale driven model to an innovation led model. Previously, the legacy IT industry of India was always based on providing and producing more software output and tools and exports. It was largely driven by the scale model, where at a rapid scale, the companies could churn out software products and sell this to the global clients. But today, without innovation, without bringing better productivity and optimization, Indian IT sector will stand to lose out. That is why the IT companies are already transforming their whole model and structure itself. From hiring the talent to utilizing the existing talent to deploying the AI tools and even upgrading their own systems and databases, a complete transformation is taking place. So, where there is focus on innovation, knowledge, it will eventually help the industry to thrive. That's what we learned. So, that is the explanation you need to bring out in the first part of your answer, preferably in the introduction or in the first part of your body. And then you address the second part of the question. What will be the implication of this transformation on three factors: on employment, on business models, and India's global competitiveness? So these three factors have to be addressed in your answer in the body. You can't miss this out. So start your answer with a good introduction defining what AI is doing in the IT sector. In two lines, hardly in 20-25 words, you can quickly explain how AI is bringing out this complete turnaround, a complete transformation from a scale driven model to an innovation led model. And try to bring in some facts over here, maybe some data about the size of the Indian IT industry, the contribution of India's IT industry to the Indian economy. So this makes for a good introduction. Maybe in 35-40 words, in one paragraph, or maybe in 3-4 bullet points, you will be able to provide this introduction. Then, in the body, divide your answer into these categories. Use the headings. One, talk about the drivers of change. How AI in IT is driving these changes that we have discussed, the rise in productivity, especially in routine manual tasks, how cost optimization is increasing investor confidence, and how today small teams of coders are able to do better than large armies of these IT companies. So bring that assessment over here and then talk about the implications on three factors: the factor of employment, the business model, and for India's competitiveness. Maybe 2-3 points under each heading is more than sufficient. What does it mean for the job market in India? Will employees really lose out? To discuss this, whatever I have explained. What does it mean for business models? What transformation are we seeing in the industry itself? And what does it mean for the Indian economy? Can India's IT industry remain globally competitive? Can they deliver to the requirements of the global market? That is what you need to address here in 2 to 3 points. So, roughly in 150 to 170 words, your body will be done. And can you see how there is a logical flow of thought? A step by step answer addressing each and every requirement of the question. And then finally, you conclude your answer. Maybe another 30 words approximately, 2 to 3 lines, pointing out that AI need not be seen as some sort of existential threat. Rather, it's an opportunity which is getting created. Yes, there will be some crisis. Those who get laid off, yes, they will face a crisis. But if you reskill, if you upskill, if you are someone who can innovate and leverage AI, there are plenty of opportunities which is opening up in the current economy and the future economy. So present that optimistic note. Strike the note of caution, definitely. Give out that word of caution, but point out the optimistic future that lies ahead. That makes for a good conclusion. Now let's move on to the next article. On page number 6, the Hindu carries a analysis based article on judicial discipline versus judicial overreach. This is a very interesting case and I want you guys to pay attention to this. Recently, Supreme Court of India delivered a very rare verdict. A few months ago, in a matter involving the Allahabad High Court, and one of the judges of Allahabad High Court, Justice Prashant Kumar, the Supreme Court carried out an intervention and it passed a very controversial order that raised concerns within the legal fraternity. And now the Supreme Court has gone back and reversed this order which had been passed. So what was this controversial order? What was the case related to? Why was Justice Prashant Kumar being reprimanded by the Supreme Court? And now why the Supreme Court has reversed and revoked its previous orders? That is what we need to learn. See, at the Allahabad High Court, a case had come up. One of the litigants was trying to file a criminal case against the other litigant, and this matter was related to a sale transaction between a buyer and a seller. The buyer and seller had come to some sort of an agreement, and eventually the buyer hadn't paid up the entire transaction amount as promised. So the seller had taken this matter to court, seeking for a criminal case to be filed against the buyer for not paying the full amount, for not paying that unpaid balance. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware that this matter is not at all a criminal matter. Even if you're not a law graduate or a legal expert, right? You don't have to be a legal expert to know this. It is basic common sense that such matters are treated as civil disputes under the civil laws, not under criminal laws. But in this case, the litigant had approached the court seeking for a criminal case to be filed against the buyer who had not paid the unpaid balance as per the previous commitment which had been made in the sale transaction. So when this matter reached Allahabad High Court, obviously, what do you think the High Court would have done? In a regular instance, the High Court would have dismissed the petition. The High Court would have reprimanded the litigant. Why are you bringing a civil case in front of us and asking for a criminal case to be taken up? The High Court would have refused and turned back the litigant. But Justice Prashant Kumar did the opposite of it. In fact, believe it or not, it was Justice Prashant Kumar who ended up justifying and even suggesting that you should take this up in a criminal court, not in a civil court, because cases in civil court will drag for many years and you will not get the balance money paid. This suggestion was made by the justice itself. Justice Prashant Kumar makes this suggestion in the Allahabad High Court to the litigant that you have done the right thing by bringing a civil matter in as a criminal case, and he accepted this as a criminal litigation. He directed the magistrate to file a criminal case as well because the police were refusing to file a case. When the litigant went to the police, they said, we will not register a FIR because this is not a criminal matter, it's a civil case. But because of the orders of Justice Prashant Kumar, the magistrate registered a criminal case. And Justice Prashant Kumar justified the argument saying, in civil courts, cases are dragging. You will not get the due amount paid. So I am approving your petition to take this as a criminal matter. Now, this is a big miscarriage of the judicial process itself. If civil matters are treated as criminal offenses, that is a derailment of justice right from the beginning. So the moment this ruling was passed by Judge Prashant Kumar, the Supreme Court took notice of this big violation. And the Supreme Court stepped into the matter. And the Supreme Court reprimanded Judge Prashant Kumar and issued two very important orders. Order number one, the Supreme Court ordered the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court, who's the master of roster. What do you mean by master of roster? Master of roster, which is the authority vested with the Chief Justice of the court, allows the Chief Justice to determine the allocation of cases. Which judge will handle which case? Which bench, if a multi-judge bench is constituted, which bench will handle which particular case? This essentially allocation of cases is decided by the Chief Justice, and this is a recognized discretionary power of the Chief Justice. Through repeated rulings of various high courts and Supreme Courts, previous judgments have made it very clear that the Chief Justice of a court has full discretion to act as the master of roster. This is an administrative role of the Chief Justice. In the administration of the court, allocation of cases is very crucial. It's a very crucial role. So which judge will take up which case? Which bench will handle which case? This is decided at the discretion of the Chief Justice of the court. That's why the Chief Justice is the master of roster. The Chief Justice is the authority to handle the administrative business of the court. Now, the Supreme Court stepped in and directed the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court that, look, Judge Prashant Kumar should not be given cases on his own. He should be made to sit with a senior judge. This was order number one. It was like a school teacher punishing a student who's causing nuisance in the class. I'm sure you would have experienced this in your school days. Let's say you're being naughty or talkative. The teacher would make you sit with a good student so that their influence would rub on you, and you could be monitored by the student who was more obedient, right? Almost in a similar manner, the Supreme Court has ordered that the Chief Justice should ensure that Justice Prashant Kumar will not handle any alone cases. He'll not be the sole judge in any case. He should be made to sit with a senior judge. Now, this itself was a very controversial move by the Supreme Court, because Supreme Court was clearly entering the administrative domain of the high courts. So the question is, does Supreme Court have the authority to dictate terms to the high court on how the business should be conducted in a high court? How the administration should be carried out in a high court? Does Supreme Court have that power? Now look at the second order that was passed. In the second order, the Supreme Court said the Chief Justice, who's the master of roster of the High Court, should not give any criminal cases to Justice Prashant Kumar. The Supreme Court ordered Justice Prashant Kumar to be removed from the criminal roster, meaning any criminal cases heard by Allahabad High Court should not be assigned to Justice Prashant Kumar till he retires from office, meaning a lifelong ban on Justice Prashant Kumar from handling criminal cases. And this again constitutes a direct stepping in by the Supreme Court, which violates the jurisdiction of the Chief Justice and the High Court as well. As I told you, Chief Justice of the court is the master of roster. And coming to the bigger question, can Supreme Court exercise superintendence over how high courts are administered? Is that how the Constitution has set up the judiciary in our country? This is the important issue that needs to be examined. That is why the debate is whether this is a case of judicial discipline or is it another case of judicial overreach by our Supreme Court. That is the debate which came up. Once these orders were passed, there was a lot of controversy in the legal community. The Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court raised the issue with the Chief Justice of India. The legal fraternity, the lawyers as well, practicing at Allahabad High Court, brought this up at the national level. So is it a case of judicial discipline or judicial overreach? So now the Supreme Court took up the matter again under Chief Justice of India, B.R. Gavai, and the Supreme Court has now decided to reverse its order. It has withdrawn the order that was passed. Because see, previous judgments by high courts and the Supreme Court itself has clearly established time and again The Chief Justice of a court is the master of roster. Even the Supreme Court cannot meddle with this discretionary power of the Chief Justice of a High Court. And more importantly, Supreme Court does not have superintendence over the administration of high courts. This matter was clearly settled by the Supreme Court itself in the 2004 Tirupati Balaji developers case. A multi-judge bench had opined that Supreme Court is more like an elder brother which can guide the courts. It can provide advice, it can guide, and especially when things are going wrong. Let's say there is some miscarriage of justice or serious violations happening. Of course, Supreme Court has a duty and a role to protect the integrity of the judiciary. It can provide that advice as an elder brother. But Supreme Court is not conferred with superintendence powers over high courts as per the Constitution of India. This is a clearly settled matter. So the Supreme Court, which heard the matter again, it clarified that its intention was not to carry out judicial overreach or not to step into the domain of the High Courts or the Chief Justice of the High Court. Rather, the Supreme Court was trying to protect the institution. Because when you have such incompetent judges, in this case, Justice Prashant Kumar was clearly incompetent to essentially allow for a civil case to be filed as a criminal case. Would have been a gross miscarriage. And the Supreme Court correctly pointed out the serious violation that was happening, which essentially sets a wrong precedent as well. This further increases the burden on the judiciary, on the police, and essentially derails the whole criminal justice system. If unjustified civil cases are being pushed as criminal cases, that is the biggest miscarriage of justice that can happen. So definitely Supreme Court had a duty to correct this, to ensure that the threat to the institution itself was addressed. But Supreme Court should not have issued those orders, ordering the Chief Justice of High Court, of Allahabad High Court, to make Justice Prashant Kumar sit with a senior judge, ordering that no criminal cases should be given to him. This was a case of judicial overreach. Judicial discipline was necessary. Correcting that was necessary, but passing those orders was a case of judicial overreach. Now, the Supreme Court itself has recognized this, and the Chief Justice of India has now reversed the order, and essentially it has restored the status quo. Clear? That is what you need to learn from this important article. So take up this mains practice question and please use it for your answer writing practice. We've already discussed one answer. So try to use that approach, employ that method that we discussed, and try to practice your answer writing for this question as well. Now let's look at the next article, page number 8, a very important article related to environment and ecology. See, right now the Global Plastics Treaty is being negotiated in order to tackle plastic pollution. So this, I feel, is a very important topic for your prelims and as well as for your mains. So first, let me explain what is the Global Plastics Treaty. See, in 2022, under the UN Environment Program, an intergovernmental negotiating committee was established to negotiate and work out a global plastics treaty. As you all know, plastic pollution is a significant environmental threat, as plastic can remain in the environment for several years and decades. It can break down into microplastics and it can enter water streams and eventually the marine ecosystems as well. And microplastics today are being found across the food chain, including in our own bodies as well. So to tackle the threat of plastic pollution, to protect the environment and biodiversity and even human health, the global community is currently negotiating a global plastics treaty under the leadership of the UN Environment Program. The first ever negotiation, it took place in Uruguay in 2022. Please make a note. These facts are important for your prelims. When the initiative was rolled out in 2022, an intergovernmental negotiating committee was set up. Nearly 180 countries are participating in these talks. 180 nations are part of the INC, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee on Plastic Pollution. They have met 6 times till now. First session was in Uruguay in South America. Second session was in France in Paris. The third session was in Nairobi, Kenya. The fourth session was in Ottawa, Canada. Fifth session was last year, December 2024, in Busan, South Korea. And now, as we speak, the sixth session is taking place in Geneva. So that is why the topic is in news. The image you see here is from the sixth session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee on Plastic Pollution. So India is also a very active participant. Now, the article says that there has been no progress, even at the sixth session in Geneva, to finalize the Global Plastics Treaty. It's been nearly 3 years since the negotiations began under the INC, but the global community has not come to a conclusion. They have not been able to achieve consensus, and there is no final treaty which is coming out. There are clear divisions which are visible during the negotiations. So you need to understand why these divisions are coming up, on what grounds, and what is India's position. See, under the treaty which is being negotiated, there are a total of 32 articles which are being considered. The treaty consists of 32 articles as per the proposal, dealing with different aspects of plastic pollution. And to bring the treaty into force, to adopt the treaty and open it for signature and eventually to bring it into effect, it requires consensus amongst all members on all the 32 articles. This is where the difficulty lies. All the participating countries, the 180 participants, they have to agree on all the 32 articles. Unless and until that happens, there can't be a final treaty. Now, on what point are divisions present and which countries have a strong position on these particular issues? Let's discuss this quickly. See, under the negotiations which have begun, the primary focus is on tackling plastic pollution, which means how to deal with plastic waste which is generated, how to scientifically handle plastic waste, how to process it, how to ensure that non biodegradable plastic is not used anymore. This is one of the problem statements which is being addressed. To tackle the pollution, to tackle the unscientific disposal, and promote scientific management, deal with the hazardous plastic waste. This is the primary intent. But many other countries are pushing the discussion in a different direction altogether. They want to include plastic production and the entire life cycle of plastic consumption and plastic waste. So, some countries, especially few developed industrialized nations and few countries which are more environment conscious, they are pushing for a very comprehensive treaty covering every stage of plastic, right from its production to its distribution, usage in the industry, in the economy, its eventual disposal, and how the waste is going to be handled. They want the treaty to encompass every aspect of plastic, the entire life cycle of plastic. So, from an environmental point of view, this seems to be the better approach. Correct? You address the problem at the root, at the source, and the source is where the plastic is produced. And what is the raw material, the raw ingredient used for plastic production? It is polymers derived from the petrochemical industry. Plastic, I hope you know, is essentially a byproduct of petrochemical industry. The polymers from the petrochemical industry is what is used to make plastic. And when I say plastic, don't just think about plastic bags and covers and the day-to-day plastic items that we use. Apart from that, plastic has a huge application in the industry, from packaging to uh, using in the mechanical construction of various tools and equipment. Plastic is almost omnipresent, present everywhere across the industry. So, overnight, if countries decide to regulate and maybe even restrict the production of plastic, the usage of plastic, this could have a detrimental impact on the economies of certain nations. This will become a developmental question, just like climate action, which is the focus of climate change negotiations, has created a divide between developed and developing nations because eventually climate action will have an economic impact. Similarly, how plastic will be treated under the Global Plastics Treaty will have an economic impact as well. So, those countries which are major oil producing nations, they are opposing this approach for obvious reasons because they clearly have a vested interest. So, countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Russia, even Iran, all these major oil producing nations, they do not want the treaty to cover plastic production because this will affect their oil industry, their petrochemical industry. Then, even countries like China and as well as India, we are on the side of the oil producing nations because we are dependent on plastic. Plastic is critical for our economy even today. We can't overnight end the dependency on plastic. So, India is supporting these countries. It's a rare occurrence where India, China are on the same page. And we are aligned with Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Kuwait, Bahrain, and other major plastic producing nations and oil producing countries. They do not want the treaty to cover the source. The plastic production should not be regulated. They want the treaty to focus only on the problem statement, which is to tackle plastic pollution. This is where the difference has come up. There's also one more point of difference. Should plastic be phased out eventually? This is another question which is being addressed. One of the articles being negotiated deals with a possible expiry period, a deadline for plastics, a deadline after which plastic should not be used at all. Some countries are pushing for phasing out plastics, but India and the oil producing nations and other countries dependent on plastics, they do not want a phase out period to be included. These are the points of differences. Please make a note. We want the treaty to deal only with plastic pollution, nothing else. We don't want the treaty to cover plastic production, and we don't want a phase out period, a deadline to be placed. So these two friction points has led to differences between the negotiating members. That is why the talks are dragging. Divisions have come up, and even after 6 sessions, 6 rounds of talks, we still don't have a global plastics treaty. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Should India be siding with the oil producing nations? Should we be encouraging more production and usage of plastic? Or should we overnight end our dependency on plastic? From an environmental point of view, the answer is obvious. You have to address the problem at the source and cover the entire life cycle of plastic. Please understand India's approach. As a developing nation, we can't simply end the dependency on plastic. Many industries are dependent on it, the small micro industries, agriculture sector as well. So you can't expose them to higher costs. Though there are few alternatives available, safer alternatives for plastic, they're all expensive materials, much more expensive than plastic. So making a sudden shift and addressing the supply and production will increase the cost, and this will have an economic impact on developing nations. That is why India is opposing these two provisions, the phase out provision and the provision to regulate plastic production at the supply stage itself. That's why we are siding with oil producing nations. So let me know what you think about this. What is your stand? Mention that in the comments. Then, one update regarding the persisting social oppression in our society. In Tamil Nadu, there was a very disturbing incident which came up recently. In the Karur district of Tamil Nadu, there is this very popular temple where apparently a caste group belonging to an intermediate caste hierarchy, they created a huge compound wall around the temple. a compound wall which was 200 feet long, 10 feet high. So, this community which built the compound wall around the temple, they argued that this compound wall was necessary to keep out any illegal activities, any anti-social elements from entering the sacred temple premises. Because according to this community, which belongs to an intermediate caste hierarchy, right? It's neither upper caste or lower caste. The community, the Totai Naikar community, which constructed the wall, belonged to the intermediate caste hierarchy. So those who built the wall, they argued the wall's purpose was to safeguard the temple premises and the sanctity of the temple by keeping it safe from anti-social elements. Because without a wall, anti-social elements were entering. They would often drink alcohol as well. So they had a valid reason to build this wall. But the moment the wall went up, it was immediately opposed by the Dalit community here, the scheduled caste community, Arun Tatiyar community. They raised an objection. According to them, this wall was built to exclude the Dalit community. See, there is a long standing difference or issue between these two communities in Karur district. So their understanding was the wall was being built to make the temple exclusive to that particular so-called intermediate caste. And it was designed to keep out the Dalits from the temple. Because why else would you build such a high wall? That was their argument. And this led to a major tussle at the local level. And finally, it required the intervention of the government officials. The revenue department intervened and they have brought the wall down. They've ordered the community which built the wall to take it down because the wall which has been built is on government land, it's on government property, it's not on the temple premises. So, this issue highlights the prevailing concerns about untouchability. The Constitution of India explicitly prohibits untouchability, prohibits any such temple exclusion. This is the horror that Indian society has lived with. The centuries old oppression of the lower caste, the Dalits, and temple exclusion has been one of the prime tools through which the lower caste communities and Dalits have been excluded. So, of course, it is a very controversial issue, but this incident in Tamil Nadu highlights how these issues are still prevalent, right? So that is something I wanted to, just to draw your attention to. So now let's move to the towards the prelim section. We have few small articles. We can quickly wrap it up. On page 8, there's an article related to Punjab and internal security of India. The Punjab state government has launched a anti-drone system which is being deployed along the sensitive Pakistan border. See, we have been discussing in many sessions how drones have transformed warfare and security in today's world. Drones are not only being employed by armed forces, intelligence agencies for military operations and intelligence gathering, but drones are being extensively used by organized criminals, by criminal cartels and smuggling syndicates, especially the commercial toy drones, which are easily available, hardly for $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000. You get the cheap Chinese commercial toy drones. And these drones from Chinese origin, they have been extensively deployed by smugglers and criminal cartels who have the backing of Pakistan's ISI. And they've been using them to smuggle drugs and sometimes even smuggle arms and drop money as well onto the Indian side to fuel the Khalistan movement and other terrorist activities across the border. This has been a border security challenge. The border guarding force, BSF, has been dealing with this persistent threat of drones from the Pakistani side, used by criminal cartel smuggling syndicates with the support of Pakistan's ISI, the Pakistani army, and its border guarding force. They have been enabling the criminal and smuggling syndicates to smuggle drugs, arms, and funds onto the Indian side to fuel terrorism and insurgency in our country. So, this has been a serious security challenge. So, right along the border where BSF has jurisdiction, the BSF has already deployed anti drone systems. During Operation Sindoor, we saw how India's effective multi layered air defense of the Air Force, Army, and BSF successfully took down most of the incoming Pakistani projectiles. But apart from that, Deeper inside Punjab, that is away from the border, you do need constant surveillance and vigilance to deal with the drone threat. So Punjab Police have taken up this initiative to launch a anti-drone system in coordination with the Border Security Force. So this state government-led initiative is known as the Hawk Eye. In Punjabi, it's being referred to as Bas Ark. So Punjab government has installed an anti-drone system to tackle the threat of smuggling from across the border. And this is a border security measure. Next, on page number 8, there's an article related to a tribal community called Dard-Shin community. Dard-Shin Tribe is found in Jammu and Kashmir. So let's quickly talk about the tribe. It's a very unique community and can be very important for prelims. See, historically, the Dard-Shin tribe, they once ruled parts of Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan back in the 16th century. Please remember this. At one point, the Dard-Shin tribe, they were ruling over parts of Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan back in the 16th century. But today, they are a small group of tribal community restricted to some pockets of the Kashmir region. So today, the community can be found in the Gurez Valley and as well as in Dras Patalik sector and Tulel. In these parts of northern parts of Kashmir is where you find the Dard-Shin tribe. This is where they are present. And according to the 2011 census, the population of this community is just 48,000. So it's a relatively small sized community today. And their primary occupation was farming, agriculture, and raising livestock. But today the community is focusing on tourism because the tourism in the region, in the Kargil, Gurez Valley, Dras region, Ladakh region, creates a lot of employment opportunities from the Srinagar to Ladakh belt. So this is where most of the community members are employed, running their own shops and businesses and providing services in the tourist industry and hospitality sector. So this is a transformation the community has gone through. And this community is known for its rich literature, rich poetry, and rich artifacts, including jewelry making. In fact, the Indian Army has built a cultural museum, a cultural center to celebrate the Dard-Shin culture on the banks of the Kishan Ganga River. On the banks of the Kishan Ganga River, which is part of the Indus Basin, Indian Army has built the Sheena Culture Center in Dawar to set up a museum, collect all the artifacts, and to protect and celebrate the rich history and culture of the Dard-Shin tribe. And today in India, this community is a scheduled tribe. It's classified as a scheduled tribe by the union government. That is something you need to note down. Yeah. Next, page number 9. An important update regarding India's ties with Saudi Arabia. Very important for economy and international relations. Saudi Arabia's Aramco is likely to invest in BPCL in an upcoming refinery project, and it is looking to acquire a 20% stake. Now, this is a very big development because Saudi Arabia has always been a key oil supplier to India. It has been a top oil supplier in the top 2 or top 3 nations that supplies oil to India. Saudi Arabia is critical to our energy security, and especially in the last 15 years, India Saudi relations have really transformed. We are not just a buyer and a seller. It's not just a buyer seller relationship. Today, there is a strategic partnership between India and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia has committed to invest up to $100 billion in India's infrastructure, especially in the petrochemical industry. In fact, few years ago, Saudi Arabia was supposed to acquire stake in Reliance Industries, which is India's major private player in the petrochemical sector. But that deal fell through, it fell apart. But now Saudi Arabia is all set to invest in a massive refinery project of BPCL, which is coming up in the Nellore district. This project even has strategic significance. This will be one of the largest greenfield petrochemical refinery in India. This BPCL refinery of Bharat Petroleum will receive significant funding from Saudi Arabia, and the company which is investing is Aramco, owned by the Saudi royal family. Aramco is the world's largest oil company, and in fact, it's one amongst the top companies in the world in terms of its market capitalization. So this Saudi kingdom owned company is investing in BPCL refinery project at Nellore, and it's acquiring a 20% stake. So this symbolizes the close economic strategic ties between India and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is now helping us with investments to set up our petrochemical infrastructure. I hope you know that today India has become an exporter of petrochemical products. We are no longer just an importer of crude oil and gas. Today we are refining the products and exporting them to other markets. And Saudi Arabia is a key partner which is helping India in this regard. Now, I'll give a small homework for you today, small exercise. Read about the Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve Project, ISPR. This is another important collaboration between India and Saudi Arabia and India and United Arab Emirates. Both Saudi and UAE, they are helping India with a strategic project called the ISPR, Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve Project. So read about this, and can you mention 3 to 4 important points in the comment section so it can help other students as well. Let's look at topic number 8. On page 9, we have an article referring to the Vizhinjam seaport and the transshipment facility, which is a massive strategic port facility of India, which was recently inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi near Trivandrum in Kerala. You can see over here, near Trivandrum on the west coast of India in Kerala. India has recently inaugurated one of the largest transshipment container terminals, a massive seaport facility at Vizhinjam. And you can see that the location of Vizhinjam seaport is strategically very important because it sits right in the middle of important trade routes, maritime shipping routes that connects West Asia with Southeast Asia. It also connects South Asia with Africa. These critical shipping routes are passing through this region, and until recently, India was heavily dependent on transshipment facilities located in other countries. Most of India's trade, our imports and exports, they would pass through transshipment ports in Colombo, in Sri Lanka, or in Dubai, in UAE, where such facilities are present, or through Singapore. And we would end up losing a lot of revenue as well because of this. And India was dependent on these transshipment facilities present around our neighborhood in UAE, Sri Lanka, and Singapore. So now, with India's own transshipment container terminal, Vizhinjam, which is strategically located, India is now able to smoothen the trade transactions and the movement of goods and also limit the loss of revenue. And this even has strategic implications as well. The Vizhinjam seaport, which has been built, it requires very minimal dredging because it's a natural port. It has a natural deep draft of 20 meters, which is more than sufficient to even handle large cargo container ships. So this port project was executed under phase 1 as a joint collaboration between Government of Kerala, Government of India, and Adani Ports. The public-private partnership involving the state government, the central government, and Adani Ports. Now, phase 2 of the project is all set to begin. In another 3 years, the second phase will be completed, which will significantly expand the handling capacity of the seaport, which will make Vizhinjam one of India's most important port facilities. Next, topic number 9. A new terminal has been inaugurated at the international airport in Maldives at Velana. The Velana International Airport in Maldives is in news. Now, this is very crucial for India-Maldives relationship. On the 26th of July, when Maldives celebrated its Independence Day, the 60th Independence Day, Prime Minister Modi had been invited by President Muizu to grace the occasion. And on this occasion, Maldives has inaugurated a new terminal building at the Velana International Airport. Now, this new terminal which has been built is crucial for driving tourism in Maldives, because Maldives is a country that's heavily dependent on tourism. Tourist flow into Maldives has been affected because of COVID-19 pandemic and because of the dispute that took place, the tensions that occurred between India and Maldives. I'm sure all of you remember how when PM Modi visited Lakshadweep to promote Lakshadweep as a tourist destination, there was a lot of unnecessary hate and outrage from Maldives, including from government ministers, where they carried out racial attacks on PM Modi and Indians. So this led to social media outrage in India, and this led to the trending of hashtag boycott Maldives campaign, where Indian tourists they en masse boycotted traveling to Maldives, and this has significantly hit the Maldivian economy. Under President Muizu, Maldives did take a anti-India position initially. It was being hostile to India, and after that, Mohammad Muizu realized the role and importance of India as the economy fell into a crisis. Historically, India is the one which has always bailed out the Maldivian economy by providing financial support. So Muizu reached back to India, and India utilized the opportunity to restore the normalcy in the relationship. We've managed to overcome the turbulent period, and it was symbolized when Muizu invited PM Modi for the Independence Day celebrations. So today, India is providing billions of dollars worth of investments and loans cumulatively. From 1965 till now, if you take it cumulatively, we have invested few billion dollars in Maldives through direct investments in projects and as well as through loans and concessional credit facilities. Recently, few million dollars worth of support has been announced by India to help Maldives overcome the debt crisis, the debt burden. It owes a lot of debt to China and as well as to India. So India has given currency swap arrangement. We have given a liquidity credit facility as well, which will help Maldives tide over the crisis. Now, this airport where this new terminal is being inaugurated is all connected to this story because Maldives incurred a lot of debt because of this project. This project was supposed to be built many years ago. It would have transformed the tourism sector in Maldives. It would have handled more tourist arrivals and departures. And this was a critical project. It was envisioned almost 20 years ago. But because of the politics in Maldives and the geopolitical competition between India and China, this project kept on getting delayed. It even got cancelled at one point. Initially, I'm saying around 2010, when the initial idea was floated, India was supposed to be involved in the project. Because, see, the main airport of Maldives at Malé, it was managed by an Indian company. GMR Infrastructure was managing the operations at the Malé International Airport, and India was also involved with GMR Infrastructure to build the new terminal building. But this project was snatched away from India when Yamin Gayoom became the president after 2012. After 2012, we saw the rise of anti-India sentiments, and under Yamin Gayoom, a pro-China policy was adopted. So this critical project, the Malé Airport project of GMR Infrastructure, was snatched away from India and it was given to a Chinese company by Yamin Gayoom. So China pumped a lot of investments under the Belt and Road Initiative. And when Yamin Gayoom was in power, China was playing a predominant role. But later, Yamin Gayoom lost power and a pro-India leader came to power in Maldives, Ibrahim Soleh. Under Ibrahim Soleh, he restored the India First policy and he cut down China's role and involvement, leading to further delays in the construction of this new terminal. But now that President Muizu has realized the role and importance of India, though Muizu was pushing the India Out campaign of Yamin Gayoom, he came to power by promoting the India Out campaign of Yamin Gayoom. He was clearly hostile to India initially, but in the last 1 year, he has reformed, he has changed his approach, he has brought India back into the fold. And with the help of India, Maldives arranged a new loan from Middle Eastern investors from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and other funds. A lot of investments were brought in to complete this project. So, in the last 1.5 years, this project has now been fully completed and this new terminal building has been inaugurated. So, this is not just an ordinary airport terminal, it symbolizes the competition between India and China and the geopolitics of Maldives. That's why the location is very important. Please make a note of Velana International Airport. Coming to the last article for today, Donald Trump has engineered another peace deal. Trump is really in a rush to get a Nobel Peace Prize. He might claim to have negotiated a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, which India clearly rejects. But Trump indeed has negotiated some truce and peace deals with other conflicting countries, be it Thailand, Cambodia, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, right? He has struck quite a few peace deals, and now he is eager to strike a peace deal between Russia, Ukraine, and even possibly to bring the Gaza war to an end. So there's another conflict which Trump has managed to bring to a conclusion through a peace agreement, that's between Armenia and Azerbaijan. These two former Soviet republics, they were at conflict over a territory called as Nagorno-Karabakh. In fact, UPSC has already asked a question on Nagorno-Karabakh. So this conflict has led to frequent clashes and limited wars, and recently it had flared up. Azerbaijan, in a very swift operation, managed to capture Nagorno-Karabakh and delivered a crushing defeat to Armenia. Just a couple of years ago, Armenia was defeated. It was driven out of Nagorno-Karabakh region, and Azerbaijan has fully taken over this former Armenian enclave. The Nagorno-Karabakh was this enclave over here of Armenia, of Armenian population. Armenian citizens were present here, surrounded by Azerbaijani territory. That's where the whole conflict comes from. Eventually, Azerbaijan has taken this full territory, driven out all the Armenians, and it has fully integrated Nagorno-Karabakh today. By the way, this represents a larger geopolitical conflict as well. Because see, Azerbaijan is getting full support from Turkey. It has full support from Pakistan as well. And Azerbaijan often supports Pakistani position on India's internal matters like Kashmir issue. That is why India has a problem with Azerbaijan. Though India was a good friend. In fact, we were part of the INSTC project with Iran and Russia, and Azerbaijan was a key component of this initiative. We actually had decent ties with Azerbaijan, but as it sided with Pakistan and Turkey and turned hostile to India, India has countered this by getting very close to Armenia, and India has been a major weapon supplier to Armenia. In the context of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, we have supplied advanced weaponry to Armenia, including the Akash air defense system and important radars and rockets, and Pinaka rocket system has been supplied by India. That is a larger geopolitical context present here. But now, Donald Trump has struck a truce between the two nations, bring the conflict to a permanent end. And as part of the peace proposal, Trump is proposing a corridor. It's called the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. This is a corridor proposed by Trump. Of course, he has named this after himself. Because as you know, Trump is someone who's very egotistic, almost a narcissist personality. He has named this proposed corridor after himself. Other countries have agreed. They have proposed it, of course, just to please the ego of Donald Trump. Now, this corridor is going to be very important for your exam. The Trump route for international peace and prosperity. This is a proposed corridor to connect Azerbaijan with an Azerbaijani exclave called Nakhchivan. Can you see here? Nakhchivan is this small Azerbaijani exclave which is surrounded by Armenia on all sides. So Azerbaijan does not have direct access, direct connectivity to this exclave called Nakhchivan. So to connect the two, a corridor has been proposed here. Can you see here? This is the corridor linking Azerbaijani mainland territory with this exclave of Nakhchivan. Now, this project is a threat to Iran. Iran has opposed the Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Iran has said, we will not allow this corridor to be built because the corridor will pass along Iranian border. Iran shares borders here with both Armenia and Azerbaijan. The corridor will be in Armenian territory and Azerbaijani territory. It will not transgress into Iranian territory. But Iran sees this as a strategic and security threat. And Iran has said it will strongly oppose this corridor. So please make a note of the route and the location and be aware of the places present around this location. So on this note, I bring my discussion to an end. I hope this detailed analysis has helped you understand today's newspaper. And if you like the session, please press the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That is it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next class.